Have you ever wondered what Carl Jung's views are on psychosis and mental illness? Well, stay tuned. Let's start this video off on what Carl Jung's views are on diagnoses as a whole. Clinical diagnoses are important since they give the doctor a certain orientation, but they do not help the patient. The crucial thing is the story, for it alone shows the human background and the human suffering, and only at that point can the doctor's therapy begin to operate. Beautifully well written, right? Only at the point where the human is able to show their story can the doctor operate. And how many people get thrown medication before their story gets shown? Anyway, let's dive deeper into this Carl Jung shit, alright? Hello, leprechauns. Welcome back. If you've not heard of me before, I'm Layo the Leprechaun, and I make videos about my drug-induced psychosis. We're going to be taking some excerpts from Carl Jung's book, Memories, Dreams, Reflections. In this book, Carl Jung talks about his time in a psychiatric ward. So let me give you a bit of background story. Carl Jung is just out of university. He's getting a bit fed up with home and he wants to leave. So he goes to... what's it called? Bergolzi. Carl Jung is what you would classify as a curious cunt. He wants to know as much as he can. He's so intelligent and he doesn't really know anything about this world, about what it's like in what he describes as a mental hospital. And so he's so willing to learn. He wants to learn as much as he can from these psychiatrists, because these psychiatrists have been in the business for ages. But whenever Carl Jung gets to this mental hospital, he finds out the psychiatrists know fuck all. And so Carl Jung, determined to find out what it's really like in the minds of the mentally ill, he goes out of his way to listen to his patients, to understand their delusions and their hallucinations, and he literally manages to cure someone from schizophrenia. So more of that in a minute. For now, I'm going to read you some excerpts from his book, Memories, Dreams, Reflections. In this book, he makes a brilliant point of saying, in therapy, the problem is always the whole person, never the symptom alone. We must ask questions that challenge the whole personality. A round of applause, please. Thank you so much, Carl. Who would have thought, in order to actually cure someone from mental illness, you've got to treat them like a human being. You got to listen to them and challenge their whole personality. Can someone tag my psychiatrist in this video, please? But hold on, we're not done yet. I've got another quote for you from Carl Jung. Jung writes, "Through my work with the patients, I realized that paranoid ideas and hallucinations contain a germ of meaning, a personality, a life history, a pattern of hopes and desires lie behind the psychosis. The fault is ours if we do not understand them." I love the responsibility that Jung takes as a psychiatrist and a helper of the mentally ill. The fault is ours if we do not understand them. How many psychiatrists and psychologists do you think there are out there right now that blame the individual for not being able to understand them? Anyway, let's go back. It dawned upon me then that a general psychology of the personality lies concealed within psychosis. So, what Jung is saying here, that the general psychology lies within the personality of the person with psychosis. Like, what people see whenever they experience someone going through a psychosis is they're just seeing the outer layer of the onion. You know, in the inner layers, there is a core reason for the actions and beliefs of this individual. And by looking at the symptoms alone, you're not going to get at that core reason. And so this core reason, it could come due to trauma, dietary health, physical health, substance abuse, impact of the brain, And some people would also argue genetics. However, even though they are doing a lot of research into the genetic side of it, there is not much evidence to support that genetically it makes a huge difference. Usually it is due to the environment. Back to Carl Jung though. Carl Jung shares one of his experiences in this mental hospital, as he likes to call it. The experience he shares is with a girl. To give you a bit of background about this girl, she got sexually abused by her brother whenever she was 15. She also got abused by a schoolmate. At 16 then, she spent a year in isolation, and at 17, she got admitted into the mental hospital. She spent a year and a half there before meeting Carl Jung. Whenever Carl Jung met her, basically it took a wee while for her to open up to Jung. Eventually, whenever she did open up to Jung, she told him that she was on the moon. She told him that on the moon there was generally a majority male population. Because there was this flying demon, like a vampire of sort, that was coming and taking away all of the women and children. After talking to Jung for a while about this, the girl decided that she was going to confront this vampire demon figure and she was going to try and kill it. How she was going to do that, she was going to wait on top of this balcony with a knife. So she waited there for a couple of days. Eventually then the vampire came, and whenever the vampire came, he grabbed her by the arms. The girl then was not able to grab the knife because the vampire had her arms in a lock, but also she was not able to do it because she was in such awe of the beauty of this demon. This demon was said to have been unlike anyone she'd ever met, so mesmerizingly beautiful, it took the shock out of her. The demon then flew away with her. Over the next period of months then, the girl would say to Jung that there is no beauty in the earth. In the moon, there is beauty. And she would sort of escape by going to the moon. She ended up then in a catatonic state and got sent away, and Jung wasn't able to see her for a while. Whenever Jung then did see her, he told her, "All this won't do you any good. You cannot return to the moon." And lo and behold, after that, she got released from this mental hospital pretty quickly. She then even managed to get a job, and in the job, someone was giving her a bit of stick, like calling her names or whatever, and she did actually shoot this guy, but she continued the therapy with Jung, and it turned out she was actually carrying a gun the whole time that she was with Jung, and at the end of their last session, she took out the gun and she said to Jung, like, if you weren't able to help me, I was going to shoot you. And after that, she ended up getting married. She had a couple of kids. She survived 2 world wars, and she never had an episode again, which is pretty incredible, isn't it? Now, you could question her actions with the gun, and yet you could also question American laws with guns. But the fact that she never relapsed, never had an episode again, it's fucking incredible. Jung's analysis of this is very mythological. So, what he says, to quote from the book, he says that as a result of the incest, this girl had been humiliated in the eyes of the world, but elevated in the realm of fantasy. The consequence was complete alienation from the world, a state of psychosis. She plunged into outer space where she met with this winged demon, the vampire sort of thing. By telling me her story, she had, in a sense, betrayed the demon and attached herself to an earthly human. Hence, she was able to return to life and to marry. So, whether or not you agree with the mythological approach that Jung applies to this, the detachment from the demon and the attachment to Jung, What I believe was the main reason to allow her to come out of the psychosis and to fully recover was the way that Jung so lovingly and compassionately listened to her. He allowed her to open up without judgment about her delusions, about being on Mars.
Mars? She's not Elon Musk, mate.
I don't know what your experience of this would have been like, but I know with me, like, the delusions that I experienced, some of the nurses were very much like, this is completely not real, you should ignore this. And while other nurses, like, really listened to me compassionately, and, you know, the closing of the door and pretending it doesn't exist, for this individual at the time, it very much does exist. And although it may not be real in the physical world, in the metaphysical, there is without a doubt a greater meaning inside of it. You know, what you're seeing is the outside of the onion layer. You gotta peel away the layers to look at the core reason. On top of this, the way that Jung respectfully told her, this is doing you no good, stop going to the moon. Like, from my understanding, that would have probably shown her that there are people on this earth that care about her. There are people on this earth that are willing to help her. And with the respect that Jung is giving her, maybe there will also be other people on this earth that will give her an equal amount of respect. And as you can see, she found that by getting married, having kids, and never having a relapse again. So maybe instead of ignoring our delusions, we need to look into them and see why they are happening to us. What do you think, leprechauns? Do you think there is a hidden meaning behind your delusions? And if so, what conclusions can you make from them? I fully believe there's a hidden meaning behind my delusions. For example, my delusion about being the Messiah, there's definitely a hidden meaning behind it for me. And if you want to hear more about that, then watch this video here. Thank you so much for listening, leprechauns. I hope you enjoyed this. Please give any feedback in the comments. I appreciate your support. Like, comment, subscribe, and please stay safe. I love you all. Good luck.